Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. We're going to keep looking at the Sermon on the Mount with Jesus, and there's not much left in this teaching, and we'll go back and look at all of the segments that Jesus talked about. But Jesus is beginning to get into a point where he's trying to show that there's going to be so many teachings out there about God. There's going to be so many teachings out there about him. There's going to be teachings about the afterlife. There's teachings about how to live your life. I mean, just stop for a second and think with me how many different religions or faiths or belief systems or different viewpoints of life and spirituality there are out there. Jesus tried to show that there's one way, that he's the one way. So what do you do with all of these other ways? Jesus is basically saying, be careful, because people influence people. I mean, just think with me for a second. Think of all of your friendships. Think of your relationships. If you're dating, your boyfriend or girlfriend, or if you're married, your husband or wife. Think of your family. Think of your coworkers. Right? There's people that we choose to be friends with, obviously, and there's other people that we are stuck to or connected to, stuck with in some way, maybe because of work. And not that that's a bad thing, right? But maybe we wouldn't have naturally chosen them as friends, but because of a work situation or a family situation, whatever, a project, you're with them, right? And I want you to think about all those people and ask yourselves, how do they help you become a better person? Like how does your best friend help you become a better person? How would your boyfriend or girlfriend help you become a better person? How would a coworker, do they help you become a better person? Now, one of the questions that Patty and I asked ourselves when we were dating and we were considering getting married was, am I becoming a better person because of her, because of him? And then to take it a step deeper, how is that person really helping you grow closer to God or not? Right? And Patty and I both saw that we are being challenged to grow closer to God by the other person. That's a good thing. That's a great sign that you should be with that type of person and people in your lives. So Jesus realized that. He's realized the influence of people, and he realized that there's so many teachings out there. What this is called in the Bible a lot of times is a phrase of false prophets or false teachers. Is basically people saying certain things about God, but not actually being right. But they could have a ton of charisma. They could have a ton of great stories. They could even show signs of power. But should you follow them? Or how much should you let them influence you? For example, how much should you let somebody influence you if they're really not helping you become a better person? What if you are around people who continuously built you up, who continuously just invested in your heart and your emotions and your character, and you spend a ton of time with those people, or you spent a lot of time with people who tore you down, a lot of people who would just speak negatively about others, a lot of people who just weren't warm, loving people, and you spent a ton of time with them. How would you turn out after spending a couple of years with either one of those groups? Now, I know it's usually not that black and white, but in God's eyes, it is fairly black and white. There are people who speak the truth about God and can lead you to a closer relationship with God. And then there's people who won't or who don't, and that's it. The question we have to ask ourselves is, are we surrounding ourselves with the right type of people? Are we allowing the words of the right type of people penetrate our hearts and our souls to change the essence of who we are inside? Let me read really quickly for you out of Matthew chapter 7. Jesus says this: "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them, or by their actions you'll recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit you will recognize them." So by somebody's actions, by somebody's words, by what they post on social media, you can know their heart. So don't just look at what they say. look at how they act. There's so much hidden deep inside of a person's character and soul and essence that sometimes on the surface everything looks fine. That's what Jesus says, that they come to you in sheep's clothing. They look very innocent on the outside, but deep down they're ferocious wolves. I mean, just today, my wife teaches kindergarten, and one of the boys came in sort of a dress shirt, a button-up white collared shirt, because they were having a party. And as we, helped get him in and helped get him situated, he announced very loudly to the group, "This is my sister's shirt. It's tucked in really, really deep, but I didn't have a shirt like this, so I'm wearing my sister's shirt." And I think she's 12 or 13, and he's 5 or 6, right? So you could imagine that the shirt was very large on him, and it tucked in pretty well, so you couldn't really tell. But imagine that just the amount that would have been tucked in would be really long, because his sister is much taller than him. In that sense, that's sort of how Jesus is saying, is on sheep's fur on the outside, you just see a portion of it, but you really have to understand that deep down, there are people out there that are not around you for your own benefit. They're not around you to help you grow closer to God. Jesus calls these people false because they're not speaking or teaching the truths about God. And he goes on to talk about what will happen as we spend time with them, what will happen to these types of people. But I hope we can just be clear that there is one true way. And if there's anything that's not along that path, then it would be false. It's just like on a multiple choice answer. There's usually, out of 4 choices, there's usually 2 that are really bad and 1 that's pretty close, but 1 that's the right answer. So even the close one, though, is still wrong, right? It's not any more or less wrong than the obviously wrong answers. They're just all wrong. And what Jesus is saying is there's going to be people teaching about him that just aren't right. And you just have to be really careful as you approach relationships and as you allow people to influence you. If you want to know the truth about what they're teaching or what their beliefs are, or what somebody's heart is like, or what somebody's character is like, look at their actions. Because the actions that come out of their lives, the words that come out of their mouths in the low points, when they're upset, when they're angry, the way they treat people, those are going to be signs of what's really on the inside. And pay close attention to that. I hope you could do an inventory of your life and your relationships now and begin to surround yourself by people who will bring you to truth and the meaning of life and closer to God, so that we could experience God in deeper ways. God bless.